Today I'd like to teach you a new practice for reaching out and making relationships with people in your communities, particularly people in your communities who are unaffiliated, who are unchurched, who are dechurched, who are secular, who are spiritual but not religious, folks who aren't part of your faith communities already. And so today I'd like to teach you, as I said, one practice called the relational meeting or the one-to-one. Hi Eunice.
Hi Trey.
Thank you so much for taking time today. I know that you're busy and you have lots on your plate, but I'm grateful for the 45 minutes that we have to talk. My friend Judith told me about you, and as you know, I'm new to Birmingham, and I'm working in the church here, and so my goal is just to meet up with as many folks who are doing cool, interesting things in the city, and Judith thought you might be one of those people, so here you are, so thanks for the time.
You're welcome.
So you teach at the theology school.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting. How did you get to be a theology professor?
That's a really good question. I don't think of myself as a professor. So I've had a lot of experience in ministry. I've been a Methodist deacon now for over 15 years. And in Newcastle upon Tyne, in the church that I was in before, I was invited to go and teach Methodist deacons in particular, because they offer a particular charism in Methodist ministry. They are a different group of people to presbyters, and they didn't have a focused, a diaconal person to teach them. So a friend of mine, Roger Walton, just said, "Hey Eunice, you're doing some really good stuff in the church that you're in. Why not come and join in and teach?" Okay. So I started there.
Okay. So you're a deacon.
Yeah.
Not a presbyter, not an elder.
No.
Why are you a deacon and not a presbyter?
In the British Methodist Church, there are two different kinds of ministers. So we're both ordained. Our ministry is equal and complementary. But presbyters, to kind of give you a rough guide, would be ordained to word and sacrament. Deacons are ordained to service and witness. So our orientation is very much the people of God, the communities around the church, outside of the church.
The deacons.
The deacons.
Now, why did you, though, like, you've been a faithful Christian for a long time, like, why are you a deacon and not a presbyter? Like, what is it about that in your life that makes you that?
Good question. It's the absolute focus on people, and particularly people outside of the church, not church structures, not church committees. That orientation to people who are just open to the possibility of God in a way that, and you know, that stuff where trying to enable the people of God to see that their lives enable people, hopefully, to be open to the possibility of God by the way they live. So I didn't want to be so tied up in the structures of the church. I wanted to be out, and I wanted to work in a team. Some of my presbyteral colleagues work very much in isolation. I wanted to be in a team because I just love being with people all the time. Can't get enough of that.
So you didn't want to be, I heard you say, you didn't want to be caught up in the structures of the church.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I wasn't raised in the church.
Yeah.
My parents just weren't church-going people, but I came to faith through a campus ministry at university. Yeah. And it was a life-changing experience for me. I became a Christian. I decided I wasn't going to be a doctor, that I was going to serve God as a pastor, which freaked me out and it freaked my family out. But when I became a Christian in a sort of a Christian community like that on the campus of a university, I didn't realize until later that that campus community was very different from most churches, most congregations. Yeah. And so I've spent my life working kind of on the edges or in kind of alternative space. Yeah. So for you, not wanting to get caught up in the structures and wanting to sort of be where people are, like, have you always been that way? Did you come from a family that cared about people that way? Or like, how did you get to be that Eunice?
Yeah. I was brought up in the Pentecostal tradition, so very much brought up to go to church 7 times a week. And my father he was very, very fundamental in his theology, but he had the most massive heart. And my dad was a huge influence in my life. He died over 14 years ago. But his love for people was just infectious. He knew the names of everybody in the community. And whilst he sort of articulated quite a set of beliefs that were very rigid, that wasn't how he behaved. So what he said and what he actually did, his actions, he was the most generous man. He would give anybody a tenner. We had people who struggled with, alcoholics who would sleep in the front room. He was just, he had this massive heart. And so my dad was just this incredible model of genuinely loving people. He never met anyone he didn't like. I never heard him say it, he didn't like someone. He just had this incredible love of God. He was brought up in a very poor environment. He had very little, but I got how rich he was. Even though he didn't have money, I got what he gave me, and I absolutely adored him. And from that, I became a nurse first of all. I've only been ordained deacon since 2001. And I went into intensive care nursing, and I loved that. But then a kind of major event in my life, a tragedy really, just got me to rethink. And I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to throw myself in completely to this. And I love church, but I love being in the church and helping people to see that discipleship is about what we do outside, that worship just begins when we leave the church, not when we walk into it, that we enter a place of worship when we enter the world in which we all live, work, sleep and play.
Wow, that's beautiful. And I have to ask you, because you said it, and you don't have to go there if you don't want, but you said it was a tragedy that sort of got you. What kind of, what happened?
I almost died. I miscarried. And a week later, I went to the hospital. I knew I was quite ill, but was, even to my shock, collapsed completely. The doctor on duty was someone that I actually trained in the intensive care unit where I worked. So I kind of really hoped that I trained her well, because I thought, oh dear. And I actually had to be resuscitated, and I honestly thought I'd died. So a couple of days later when I woke up, I got the biggest shock, but I really felt this sense of my life being gifted back to me. So I feel like, I shouldn't have the pleasure of knowing you, because I shouldn't be here. And that sense of life being a gift, I've always had a bit of it, but honestly, from that point in time, the sense in which I wake up and think, well, hey, come on, it's a new day, new people, that joy, that gratitude, it takes a lot for me to lose that. And when I lose it, I work hard at getting it back. I won't put up with not having it, because I really get what a difference, and I feel that in itself is a gift. I
can sense that in you. I really can. It sort of pours out of your being. And thank you for sharing that with me. Thank you so much for taking time today. It's really lovely, and I'd follow you anywhere.
Always good to talk to you. Always a joy.
Just a couple questions for you. I would love to follow up with you in a couple months. I sense that we have some deep resonances in our kind of orientation to ministry. Could we do this again in a couple of months? I'll follow up with you, and maybe we could talk more about what it would look like to do some of this stuff in Birmingham. And secondly, when you heard a little bit about me, is anyone you think I should be meeting up with in the Birmingham area or in the Methodist Church? Like any names, people you think that I should meet up with?
I think you would love Simon Sutcliffe.
Simon Sutcliffe, okay.
He's been a friend of mine for years.
All right, would you be willing to e-connect us?
Absolutely.
Great. Absolutely. And if anyone else pops in your head in the next couple of days, I'll follow up with you, but you let me know.
Sure.
Cool?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Eunice.
Great to meet you.
Okay. So that was a kind of artificial conversation between me and Eunice Atwood, who's a good friend of mine, and I hope you get a sense of how cool she is. But I just want to reflect just really quickly with Eunice, even in the artificiality of it. Eunice, like, how did that feel to be kind of engaging in a conversation kind of at that level? What did you notice that was different from maybe usual discourse, or anything pop out for you?
More focused.
Okay.
As joyful and as pleasant as it always is to talk to you, but it felt more focused, and it felt like you weren't going to let me off the hook with kind of easy stuff. You were going to just prod and push a little bit, but in a very gentle way that was kind of, I didn't feel it was intrusive, but I was quite clear it wasn't kind of tea and cake conversation. It was a bit had more depth to it than that.
Okay, good. That's the hope. And so those of you who are learning to do one-to-ones, maybe I did that okay in this dialogue. Like, yeah, you definitely want to push beyond tea and cake. Excellent. We like that. That's a good mantra for your one-to-ones. Always go beyond tea and cake. And you know, often, like when we were talking, and she put out there that she had this tragedy. That's a decision you have to make in the moment as the one-to-one. Like, can I probe there or not? And it's really kind of an art and a spiritual kind of discernment about whether to push. My general rule is if someone tells you something, if they put it out there, then they have said this is fair game. Now you still need to proceed cautiously, but that's often where the real, not that any of it's unreal, but that's where the deepest stuff can be. And I think when I asked Eunice that, we went to a very, very kind of tectonic, foundational place for who she is and what her ministry is about.